female kind of voice.
That's right. Like that's one of the reasons I got it was all my instructors at school were like, "That's the Thriller mic."
The Thriller mic, yeah.
You know, when you leave school, if you invest in one piece of gear, get a SM7.
And ironically, if you look, most podcasts use SM7s.
Yeah.
Like Joe Rogan uses SM7s. Like,
Breakfast Club.
There you go.
You know, the Talib Kweli podcast.
Yeah.
There you go. All the good ones.
All the good shit. Yeah, and you're like the good ones, motherfucker. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so we're already live. We're just gonna, like I said, we're just gonna hop into this.
Yeah, man.
I've been listening to your EP over and over.
Word.
I really like it. I have a whole bunch of questions and just comments and ideas that I want to bounce off of you.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we can start with the really unique like theme that you went with and like the whole comic book thing. I went and looked through all of the artwork.
Yeah, I meant to bring you a copy of the comic, but I was just in a hurry.
Oh, you have a physical one?
Yeah, I got you. I owe you one. I owe you a shirt as well. So
Okay.
hold me to that. I'll bring that to you. I just was like all over the place. I was like trying to like wrap up the Pro Tools session and bounce like a demo for Jade.
Sure.
And we're both trying to leave, and then I was like, I'm gonna bounce it later. Fuck all this shit. So yeah, but it came about from like basically going from Kai Skywalker and then taking like almost 2-3 years off of like recording and actively putting out music. It was like I didn't want to just make like a couple songs and put them out or just do a video and be like you know, like especially with the name switch and everything. I wanted to just do something that was like a little bit different that would kind of shake people up, bring in some new fans, kind of make the old fans curious, and like it was just like more of an art piece for me to make me like comfortable, like to get me excited again, sort of. So the reason why I went with like a socio-political comic book, like essentially like a black anime manga type of thing, is basically I wanted to just create something that like my inner child like would have really enjoyed, but make it like even more for me, because like Blade was always my shit, you know, like Blade, or like I like Deadpool, I like certain like edgy comics, and I like Dragon Ball Z, I like a lot of classic anime, Airbender, all the, you know, so all these things. But I wanted to create my own version and then also like tell a story and make a political statement at the same time. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna create a character in the future, a future that could possibly be, you know, like 70, 80, 90 years from now. And this superhero is an anti-hero because he's killing the police. But like our generation already like has a different view of the police than our parents did, or our grandparents.
Yeah.
So that image has deteriorated over time to the point where now we fear the police. You know, like don't shoot all, you know, and fuck the police. Like that was in the 80s. So like we've gotten to a point where like how far are we gonna go? Like how, you know, how much are we gonna allow the government to like oppress or like, so, and that's just like a sociological feeling. It might not always be like something you deal with every day, but it's just a feeling. Walking down the street, you see a police, you're like, shit, like they're gonna kill me. Especially in the States, it's even more heightened.
Or like, what have I done wrong? Or like, what can they catch me on right now?
The negative
like,
feeling of it's not like serve and protect, and it's like, and we know deep down we pay their fucking bills, you know, like it's all tax money, so it's like we should feel safe to like move around them and not feel pressured all the time, right? So I was just like, yo, if we keep going this way, like what is going to happen? Like, especially as the government gets a little bit more constrictive and a little bit more controlling, you know, and we all have our theories about like, you know, post-apocalypse or post, you know, whatever, like, and that was basically where it came from, was like, we're going down a path, like with the way we're treating the earth and all this kind of shit, is like, things are going to change, things might get really extreme and then have to restart. So that was kind of like the vibe was like, if it restarts, it'll be even more disparate. So it's like really rich, like utopia right beside dystopia, and certain people would just be like, nah, you out. Like if you're not in here, you're out there and you just surviving. So the Massiah Profit character was like a representation of how I feel about certain things, taken to the extreme.
Sure.
So he kills the police to protect the people who are really being like, you know, oppressed. But it's at the end of the day, I wanted to kind of shake people up. And I knew certain people will get put off by that instantly, and other people will be attracted to it instantly or curious. Be like, oh shit, like, what is that, you know? So it was something to kind of like, it's like a jab, or like, you know, it's like a feint. It's like a hidden, like, I kind of wanted to like enter back into the music industry without like making a big bang right away on purpose, but making an impact in a different way. So the comic was just a way for me to do that, and it was a way for me to like pour my time into something.
Yeah,
like
it must have been
because I wrote the
consuming,
entire comic, and I
Yeah.
like compiled it and did a lot of the graphic design, like took the illustrations and then got someone to design the logos, and what it did for me is it also created branding, because with the Massiah Profit I got my Massiah logo for like my artist name, and like so just the vibe of it and the vibe of that character is like the vibe of what my music is going to be like and how I am taken to the extreme.
Yeah.
So it's like Massiah Profit the character and then Massiah the artist.
It was a big first impression of like what's to come.
Yeah.
Did you do the like songwriting and lyrics before the artwork or after, or like which came first?
I had conceptualized the idea to make a character after I had already made a few songs that were kind of in that lane. I think I had one song that's actually on the EP that I had made prior, and then or maybe two, and one of them I changed some of the lyrics to kind of fit the character even more. But one of them I just left the same because it was just the energy of it just fit really well. It was the 91, the intro.
Yeah.
And that one I was just talking about that car and that whole vibe, and then that became the car for the character, and then it's like 2091 is the time, so it's like 100-year-old like car, and he's in this like vintage like anti-modern he's like the exact opposite of everything that's going on with the old leather. He's on some like Mad Max shit, and these people and the cops are like robots, it's like, so it's just being like very counter. So I made the 91 record, and then I started thinking of the idea, and then I started writing like a scene of a comic for that 91 record, and then I made the other songs. Okay. And then it was just like bop, 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 and then I wrote the whole comic. I had like a list of artists. I went through like I just like poured over all of Instagram and found all the black anime artists. So I specifically wanted like Boondocks, Afro Samurai style art, and I was like, it only makes sense if I find like a black dude who does anime art, or a Japanese dude who's black, or some shit like that.
Any combination of
like someone who gets it at the end of the day, right? Some Japanese people are super down with hip hop culture, so it could have been a Japanese artist, but specifically that style of anime and like urban anime kind of style. And I just searched and searched and searched, and I found like 5 or 10 artists. And then I hit up like my top 3 right away. Okay. And then the dude who was my number one choice, he was like, oh, I can't do it right now, but I can do it in a few months. So I was like, bet, like that's cool. I got time to like really get my details down. So then I went back. I like studied a whole bunch of shit, like studied about like, like post-apocalyptic theories and like all these like weird articles from the 80s about like cities and bubbles and like just crazy shit, about like ozone deterioration and all this, because I wanted to like really create like an idea in my mind of like how the world was before this character is created, like before he's born. Okay. Because the idea for me is like, if I do this story again, which I will, like kind of continue it, I want to be able to go back and like tell like the origin story of the character. But so I really like studied like so much shit just to like really like, so I had like a whole Google Drive file like with like references of like different animes that I like visually, or different characters like in other comic books, or different covers of comic books that I was inspired by, different color palettes, different sunsets, different trees, and and like just lots of images of like post-apocalyptic stuff, like from The Walking Dead, or from, because Walking Dead's from a graphic novel as well. Like,
is it really?
Yeah, okay. Almost everything that we see is from a graphic novel or a comic. Like at this point, almost every movie or like a book. You know what I mean? That's we've known that since like like all these other, like Harry Potter, everything.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Everything. Most of the things we've absorbed have been like from literature first, and that was kind of also my inspiration, was like making a comic book character. Comics are so iconic, and Marvel is so huge and so relevant in like pop culture right now, like Black Panther and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I feel like Massiah Profit is like one of those like needed, like he's like the Blade or the Deadpool. Like you need like the anti-hero. You need another person who like makes people question whether he's good or bad, or whether he's necessary or too much. You know what I mean? So I was like, yo, if this character, like, I wanted to put it out first, and I was never planning to put every song out with a comic accompanied. I was always planning to like put out music just as Massiah and like tell my own story and get back to like exactly what I've been doing. But the comic is like, I want to build that character, so I'm going to continue to go back to it at times, and whether that's another comic book or that's a full like 10-minute anime short film, I'm going to like definitely like figure out ways to like continue to go back and tell that story, because I feel like it's a dope story. One, it's relevant. I still believe in it. Like, it represents my beliefs the same way that it always does, and I can still like manipulate and like embellish on that story and tell like even more stories within it, like being able to mix in like the kids at the end and kind of like the whole like immigration vibes, or like they're getting split up from their family and stuff like that, and then like the girl gets killed at the end, and it's just like she's like killed by like stray shots, but it's like just one innocent death is worse than like he killed like 20 cops. He's like slicing these niggas' heads off and like blasting people, but it's like he's so crushed by like he couldn't save that one little girl and her dad, and it's just like that. It's like I want to create those emotional moments, and like being able to like imagine that as like an actual anime with like the and like the, you know, just be epic, right?
Yeah.
So being able to do that, a little bit of that with the music and the comic, and I want like with the comic itself, like with the hard copy, like all the people that I know that did cop it, or just fans and randoms that like, and even just anime fans that found me through Instagram that became a fan of just the comic itself. Then they found out there was the music, and then they bought the shit, and now they're like supporting it, and now they're fans of the music. And even people, I would like meet dudes in the airport. I'd be like in the airport, I see like a young black dude with his girlfriend, and they're reading manga, and I walk up and just give them a comic each. And they were like, whoa.
Yeah.
And like the comics are like square, and they're like really high end. You know the printing shop right here?
In the neighborhood?
It's right. It's like right. It's like a couple doors down. It's like really fancy. Maybe they're gone now, but like, there's this really.
Oh, for sure, of course.
Yeah, that really fancy spot right here. So they did the printing. I got them to do the printing, and it's like really high end glossy paper, and it like feels like a book almost, even though it's a comic. So when I gave it to when I gave it to random people, they were like, you know, it's like a gift. They were like, whoa. And I got a lot of like music fans off of just that, like being in Atlanta or being in Texas, like on the plane, or going to South by Southwest and just handing the comics out, even, or just meeting someone, talking to them, and then like being like, oh, by the way, this is something I created with my latest project. Check it out. Yeah. And it was a really good like talking piece and shit like that. It was
for sure. You're getting twice as many people, like you said, you're getting the manga fans and you're getting the hip hop fans, and the ones that weren't one of the other ones before are converted. And then you're finding that
crux, like it's all about finding like the little like spots in between this and this, like in between basketball and video games. You got 2K, so that you know now you have a certain amount of the population that plays video games but also loves basketball, and they're gonna like certain kinds of music.
Sure,
you know what I'm saying. So if I get my song on 2K, I know like my music suits those people not only, but those people are the kind of people that I want to be listening to. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I kind of figured it with like comics and anime and hip hop and shooting the police. You know, I knew that would literally make people like perk up. Yeah. Like negative or positive. Might make certain people like mad, and I got a lot of people being like, oh, this is negative. And then I got other people being like, yo, this is real shit. Yeah, this is like where we're headed if we don't fuck.
Well, yeah, you touched on like topics that are current and relevant, and then you're just like painting them in a different light in a new way, like the big problem like that people have with police and things like that. I got a little bit of like an Animatrix vibe. Was there any inspiration from that, or are you a fan of that? You know, like how the world's ended and it's all the machines have taken over.
100%. Matrix was a huge inspiration in my whole life. Like, I don't know if you know, like my first project, one of my first projects when I was doing the Kai Skywalker thing was Neo. And like Neo,
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, and I was like Neo, like the whole, like I was very inspired by the Matrix, and I always felt like I still feel like that. Like psychologically, I feel like that's the society that we live in, is that we're all just like plugged into this machine and we're fed everything. And it's become even more like that with these phones.
Oh, yeah.
They're like literally like we're plugged in at all times. And if you thought about like a wire from each of ours into the internet, and then into the like sources that feed the internet information, which some of it is us, but most of it is large media centers or the government or, you know, like big companies. That's who really feeds. You know, they can pay for the biggest ads. They, you know, like that's what's really getting put into our faces. So like, yeah, definitely Animatrix, like just the Matrix series in itself, and like I kind of want to amalgamate all of like those things, like all of those things that I enjoyed, like you know, like from Dragon Ball Z to Afro Samurai to like things like that were more socio-political like that. And it's crazy. Like when I was in Atlanta, I was in a room at this A3C conference, and they did like artists, like one-to-one artists to industry like meetings basically. So you line up in this thing, and then they have certain people in each room, and it'd be like a dude who worked with this guy and a dude who works with that guy and a producer for this lady and a executive over here and a Rostrum Records guy and a Universal. So you walk in the room, and then they just everybody stands up in the line, and then whoever's like the most biggest hothead of the industry guys kind of like runs the room and says, okay, what are y'all here for? And then you say, I'm here for this, that. And some people just stumbled, they like were nervous. And I just kind of said my piece. I was like, I just need people to connect the dots. Like, I already have the content, and I just need to like basically people who are going to put me in position to reach these platforms without having to like stress my pocket or just like, hit up someone with 30 emails and they never respond, right? And the guy was like, okay. He's like, see, this guy knows his answer. Like, y'all need to like think about it before people ask you. He's like, y'all should be thinking about the questions I'm going to ask you before I ask them, right?
Perfect.
And then he's like, okay, you're going to go over here, you're going to go over there. So he pairs us up. And then I start talking, and I open up my laptop and I start talking about the comic and how am I going to release this EP, yada, yada. And the dude from Rostrum Records was like, he's like, what did you just say? He's like, so you created a black superhero that kills the police, and you actually got the comic book, like it's already been created? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, and then you got music that goes with it. He's like, nah, hold up. He's like, yo, he stops the whole room. He shuts everybody's shit down. And he's like, yo, this dude killed all y'all. He's like, he's got a whole comic book with his music. And guess what the comic book's about? And this is Atlanta, so like 70% of everyone is black.
Sure.
Like all the industry people were black, and like half of the people that were getting interviewed. And he's like, yeah, he made a superhero that kills the police. And they were like, every dude's like, what? Like it's like their eyes perked up. And I was like, yo, I knew that was the intent, and I knew that's what I had made it for. Like it was supposed to be like a civil piece, you know what I mean? But I never like could imagine how hyped people would get just at the idea, like just hearing about it, you know what I mean? And that's when I really like saw the potential of just like the character itself and like the whole vibe of like what the character brings. And so with the EP, that really was intended to represent the character itself, not fully like me. There's definitely a part of me in there, and I feel like as the songs go, like by the end of it, like I kind of like show a little bit more of like my own personality with it, but it was still like intended to be for the character. So the music itself was never like intended for me to like the same as all my other records I'm gonna drop. It won't necessarily be the same in sonics or in like lyrical content, you know? Like I'm not gonna be talking about like cutting people up and shooting people, right? But like that energy was like how I feel about like, the powers that be or the system, whether that be in the music industry or in the government or in anything. I've always been anti-system, like, and so the music, the energy of the music is like very similar to how I feel, but the words I was using, I knew it was like an anime. So there were certain things I was saying that I probably wouldn't necessarily say in most of my records.
Right, so you're putting on a little bit of a character.
Yes, I'm living through the character.
Yeah, okay.
Which gave me like armor to kind of like, and it was like with the comeback pieces, like the comic and the characters, like this armor and this like hype, like this like not an idol, but like a conduit for me to like flow my energy through. It was like a protective energy for me coming back into the game. It was like, yo, this is like, let this little dude rock for the first little bit, like, you know what I mean? So I didn't want to make it like, because rap is so ego based, and every rapper, like when you start out, it's like, oh, picture me in this outfit, cool picture of me with this, cool video of my face, song.
Car,
song, video, EP. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So like the monotony of that, I was like afraid of just like, okay, if I just come back and do that with a different name, people are gonna be like, oh, Kai, and it's Massiah. But
you
like,
get lost in the ether
sauce
of everything else really quick, right?
Yeah.
It's so saturated with a
I
lot of that.
I intentionally like wanted to start slow, basically.
Yeah.
And I knew it was gonna be like a slower start, but like more of like a solid foundation in a way.
Oh, it's a really unique approach. And so you're planning on building off of this with like volume 2, like
eventually. So basically, the project I'm working on now is called Brainstorm, and it's gonna be like a single series where I drop a song every month or so. Sometimes 2 songs in a month. Every song is gonna have visuals accompanying, and Brainstorm is just about like basically it's like Brainstorm. The intention is that it's just capturing a moment. So I go in the studio, whatever the beat is, I'll take the beat and I might manipulate it, might change it, but then however I feel that day, that I'm gonna write it right there, record it right there, and capture that moment. So like whether it's like, like it might, like not all the songs are gonna sound the same. There's no form or fashion that I'm trying to make the songs like. I'm not fitting a structure of an album. It's intended to be like a series of just like feelings, thoughts, ideas, reactions. So a lot of the songs are like autobiographical, like talk about my own life, talking about my story, talking about coming from before Kai Skywalker through that to this now. This is like the second chapter of my life, or like the second chapter of my artistry. And so the songs are very like telling my story and very like direct the way I'm talking in most of the records. and that's kind of where they differ from the feelings of like Angel of Sin as a project. And so basically with Brainstorm, I'm going to just put out as much songs as I can over the next 12 months and just release consistent content with like visuals, whether that be like animations for your like stories and animations for the timeline and different versions of the same thing, essentially, to serve to people.
Sure.
Because that's what we need. We just need like what do they call it? Like assets, social assets, like content assets, right? So like taking a song and turning it into, you know, a video and a trailer and a story trailer and a timeline piece, and being able to break it up and have more, like, hit people more ways, right?
More things to consume.
Yeah, because you can only, if you hit someone with just the song link, like, there's only so much it can do, like, at this point, because everyone's just blasting people, and like, you don't want to just spam link people. You want to just entice people. You want to compel people.
Yeah.
So if you have dope animations and dope artwork and dope stuff, it's going to compel people to want to hear the music, and if they hear the music and it's good, it's going to create that cycle, that momentum, right? So with Brainstorm, I just want to be able to build my momentum up to kind of catch up with like where I was before and beyond, and basically just to tell my story over the next 12 months. And then leading into next winter is when I'm going to start working on volume 2 of the comic. And with that, and with the momentum I built, I'm going to focus on, you know, getting funding for a short film, anime, and the full animation, so that each video can have its own like actual clip, like a 4-minute clip or like a 2-minute clip or whatever, and then condense it into like a film, but then also have like the song can have like a music video, lyric video thing, and you already have all the animations, like the anime stuff, to be able to chop into other videos, other pieces of content, like we're saying. So that'll be my goal for like 2021, would be to drop volume 2. I got a couple dope features I've already kind of stashed that I'm not going to use for Brainstorm, that I'm going to use for volume 2, because there's just certain things, cool things I want to do with it. And being able to depict some dope rappers that are like from the stateside in comic book would be kind of dope. So I'm kind of holding on to a couple special little treats for later. But yeah, Brainstorm is going to be just kind of like reaffirming what I was before and who I am, and letting everybody know, and putting out enough music, enough different vibes, because of the nature of the project. I'm just doing whatever I feel. I'll pick a beat and just do a song to it. So it's gonna start, like, I put the first song out a couple weeks ago. It's called Money and Time, and it's gonna start from there with a lot of like just more direct rap shit. And then like even more telling my story. There'll be a little sauce in there, a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of like swag. Certain songs will be a little bit more fun than others, but the theme will consistently go. And then as the songs go, I'm going to introduce more songwriting, more melody, more singing, different sounds, you know, different like subgenres of the sound, and kind of just show my potential and my skill through this series, and be able to be like, oh, not only can I rap and kill it, but I can also do this and that.
Yeah, you do a lot of things well, and like listening to your EP and then the singles that you put out, and then knowing your music from your previous background, Kai Skywalker, that's something that I've always admired about you as an artist. You can really, like, when you need to rap fast or come with that delivery and the rhymes, like, you've got that nailed, but you're also able to come with just the melodic stuff. Yeah. And a lot of people that are successful now are riding off of being able to do one or the other. Yeah. You know, all the wavy SoundCloud rappers that are lots of auto-tune and stuff, but they could do that, and they have like the fun little hooks and stuff, but then when it's time to spit a 16, there's nothing going on there. Yeah. But you kind of cover both of those really well.
Yeah, man. I feel like it's like sports, you know, like I feel like versatility is like, it's like such a like valuable ability in anything you do, you know what I mean? It's like being an engineer. Like there's one thing about being able to manipulate effects and choose plugins and understand how to set an EQ, but there's another thing about being able to feel shit. And like, you know, and like the creative mixing side of like, oh, I got this idea. I want the shit to echo this way, and then and then I want the beat to drop out, and then to verify up, and like, you know, like the shit I'm good at is not like the shit that gets you that. It's just the shit that like you just sit in the studio for hours and hours and hours, and then it turns into months and years and thousands of hours, right? And like, so it's like interesting with that. It's the same as rapping and rapping and singing. Basically, it's like there's the technical side of it, and then there's the emotional side of it. And it's like if you can't if you can't emote and you can't like, so it doesn't even always need to be melody. It just needs to be like emotion. Like you could rap with like more passion or sound like you're like about. It's like a game on Start from Scratch. You know, and he sounds like he's crying.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Heavy
like so he's
shit.
inflecting emotion. He's emoting. He's like he's singing for what he can. He can't sing, and he knows he can't. So it's better. I'd rather you do that than, you know what I'm saying. If you can't sing, don't sing. If you can't like hit a melody, don't hit a melody. But if you can, more power to you. And if you can't rap, don't rap. But like, say something, right? So like with the SoundCloud rappers, it could be in melody, but say some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like Roddy Ricch separates himself from other guys because the words he uses, his melodies are crazy, and his melodies already make you feel something. But he at least like he's talking about the same bullshit as other people, but he says it in a way where it's like you think about life and death, or you're thinking about like, you know, he makes you think like it makes you feel still. So it's not just like head bobbing. You know what I mean? Like
there's a great quote that I can't remember who said it, but some famous producer was like, you know, you can't EQ emotion. Like you can have the best engineer, the best microphone, the best studio, but if the person in the booth isn't giving you like that rawness, that realness, like we don't have equipment to dial that in.
You can't create that.
You can't create
no
it. Equipment can create that. So give me the emotion.
Yeah, the human element.
The human element.
The imperfection. You can create the perfection, but you can't create the imperfection. And that's why like, you know, raspy voice is dope because you can't create a raspy voice. You can distort a clean voice, but you know what I'm saying? So it's like these, or like someone who can sing super high. Like I could pitch my voice up, but like if
you can't do the Mariah Carey thing, right? That's gonna
like, you
crack
know what I mean?
glass.
Yeah, it's like shrill. It's a whole different sound, right? So like, and that's the difference between like analog and digital. You know, like something that's going in instead of something that's like coming out of a machine. You know what I mean? Like it's going into the machine from the fucking world, right? So it's like there's only so much that can happen after this, you know, like that's why like I think like Kanye's dope sometimes when it's like his vocals sound like shit. Like on certain songs on the new record, like his like rap when he's rapping, it's like so crappy and distorted, and there was no mixing, and it almost sounds like he's rapping on a Beta 58.
Right. You can hear the proximity effect and like the bass and like the P's and
it's
shit.
almost like it's off the floor, like, and it's dope because it's like it doesn't need to be clean. It's like, yo, the instrument, everything else sounds great on that record, but like those vocals, it's almost like he just did on purpose to kind of like fuck you, like, like, you know what I mean? Like my raps are so much less than these crazy gospel vocals. So why would I try to like make them clean and like, you know, wash them and shit like that? Like
make them something that they're not.
They're just. I'm just saying something. You just need to hear what I'm saying. As long as you get life, like tell me what you know. Like he's just trying to. You know, I love shit that is very like when people like when shit is polarizing. Like the Jesus is King album, like it's so either like hated or loved, or like people like I don't have no time for it.
It feels like that, doesn't it?
It feels like that. Like, and there's a lot of like, you know, like, obviously the religious debate comes with that because it's Jesus is King. It's a gospel album.
Oh yeah.
So and because Kanye's who he is, the mistakes he's made, and because he makes so much money and he has the wife he has, it's so easy to judge him. So easy to put him on a cross and be like, oh, this guy's Christian now? Like, you know, like he was just doing, you're such a fucking hoe and blah, 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 and he did this and he did that. And I'm like, yo, like, so did all of us. Like, we bobbed our heads to that shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's I feel like art should make people be like that. Good art makes people uncomfortable. It makes people mad. It makes people upset. It makes people happy. And when I 100%. Heard that record, I loved the record. Like I felt it deeply, and I was like, yo, I needed a little God in my life. Like shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just made me feel good. And like my kids like it. Like I could play it at home. I'd be making breakfast listening to that shit. You know? And there's enough like head bob in it for me to enjoy it, but it's also not like aggressive, and there's no negative lyrics or toxic lyrics. Whether that's because I'm not all like, yo, rap shouldn't say this and say that. Because like some of it, that is documenting history. Some of that is documenting your surroundings, being real. And the other part of that is just motherfuckers who are fake, who want to live that life. They don't really want to live that life. They want to be about that life, you know. So they say certain things to make it seem like they understand what that even is. So that's false. That's false advertising. That's misrepresentation.
Yes.
I don't agree with that shit. So like, I think half of the real shit in rap is a bunch of just fake niggas, like, you know, acting, and then half of it is real people just You know, like Vince Staples just talking about what he's been, you know, like aware of his whole life, and what he's seen, what he's experienced, you know?
Well, it goes back to like creating characters, you know? I think 50 Cent publicly said in an interview, like, I don't do the things that I talk about on my music, you know, like sitting in hot tubs, smoking weed, like all the, like the guns and, you know, that whole G Unit era, like,
yeah.
Those to me were like characters. They were superheroes in a way because they were larger than life, and it was just like a move. It was like an audio movie.
Yeah, it was, like, and it was old white dudes who knew that shit would sell and would create exactly what they wanted to create, the certain climate they wanted to create. It would tell a certain story. You know, it framed it in this really like ignorant, really like overly militant type of way, which we didn't even like as kids. We didn't know if it was real or fake. That's the crazy part.
I was like 14 when that came out. I didn't know any better.
That's what I'm saying. Like I was a young teenager, and it's like we didn't know. Like we knew that it was real to a certain extent. Like we knew those dudes had guns and they were probably in gangs and shit, but we knew there wasn't like tanks and stuff. So like the ridiculousness of it just lets you know it was some like white executive dude who was like,
fabricating
like
it,
$1 million. That's what you got shot. Oh, tell him you got shot this many times. And that's perfect. Tell more about that. We want more of that. And
the album inserts, like I have the physical CDs. You go through and they got these like duffel bags of cash and the money counting machines, and it's just like it's so. And it's like
even if that was your life before rapping, like to a certain extent, like even if that's what you know, even if you were trapping before rapping, you're not like that right now. Because if you are, you wouldn't be snitching on yourself in print. Like you know what I mean? Like it just makes zero sense when you really think about it. It's crazy, man. Yeah, that's why I think it's like. You take the good with the bad, and because there's so many people making music now, the beauty of having these new tools, these computers, the fact that you could be on a beach mixing a record in a nice pair of headphones with a laptop, with Pro Tools, you know, as long as there's a little Wi-Fi, get that iLog popping.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
you could be anywhere on. I mean, I've worked on stuff on trains in Europe, you know.
So the beauty of that,
wherever you are,
the beauty of that is that there's a freedom to create, and more people who wouldn't have been able to create, you know, like that were either not privileged enough or just not lucky enough to get in a situation where they can make music. There's more music being made, and there's more opportunity, but then at the same time, there's more shit. Yeah. Right. So it's like oversaturation.
There's two sides to it.
And there's a lot of fakers who just want to be rappers, you know? They really want to be, and they see someone getting attention for it. Or maybe they truly feel like they have a story to tell, but they just suck. And they exist too, and there's the ability for them now. It's so easy to just use DistroKid or TuneCore and just bop, bop. Bop, bop.
Yeah.
Enter, you know what I'm saying? Or SoundCloud, even easier, right? And that kind of fucked the whole game up. It helped the game in a way because it created a couple new subgenres kind of like birthed from there. I mean, it helped me, like me and Spark Master Tape. Like I created a lot of my whole shit off of SoundCloud. I had hundreds of thousands of plays on SoundCloud before streaming was a thing in Canada. So I kind of like missed the boat. I stopped dropping music right before Spotify and all that came to Canada. Like I wasn't even on streaming services, right? Like iTunes, I sold some iTunes records, but a lot of the shit we had samples, so we didn't even put it on there because we were like, you know, we don't want to hear that. But yeah, SoundCloud is just like what I'm saying with the technology is like there's a good and bad to it, you know? Like creates so much, but then it's like you get a lot of bullshit with it. So then it's like more digging needed in terms of like there's more good shit to find, but there's also more crap in your way.
Exactly.
So like, depends how much effort you want to put in these days, right?
What do you think are like key ingredients in being like a standout artist? Like having, you know, because Jade and I were talking about this a little bit about like when she was in the States and like just the level of talent. It's just like, and it's overwhelming. Like, and she was saying how that pushed her to perform better and bring her best, and you know, it got me thinking like, you know, I work at a studio. I see thousands of artists, and like for me, like talent to a certain level is common, but then there's 2 or 3 other things that you have to like fit the whole piece together. Like, what do you think some of those things are?
Man, I really think patience is key. Just patience with projects, not rushing people, not rushing the process, not rushing yourself in terms of like letting your ego get the best of you. Like, oh, I should be here, or thinking you're here because you make one good dope song. Like, just like the whole like a little bit of like composure and moxie and patience. Like it's key because like I feel like ego rubs people the wrong way. Yeah, and it makes it like emotions guide your decisions, and that's dangerous all the time, right? So if you get cocky from a little bit of like, you know, you make a little record and someone gets hyped or you get a good reaction or, you know, the engineer's like, yo, that's fire, you're crazy. You let that affect what you're going to do next. Then
you get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, you lose that hunger that should remain, you know? So yeah, patience, hunger's key. How bad do you really want it? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like sports. I always compare it to sports and like basketball, number one, and like, how bad do you want it? Like,
right.
It doesn't matter how tall you are, because like as you said, talent can only take you so far. So like it's just same as like having a vocal range. That's like being tall in basketball. Like, you might be able to sing, but like that doesn't mean you can make someone like feel it. It doesn't mean you can like. So I feel like talent is like really hard to quantify, right? So I think talent could cover a lot of those bases, but a lot of it is like your mentality, which is what, like the composure and the patience and like true belief over time comes, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like young artists have a lot of belief in themselves because they're young and they have a lot of energy.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But will it stand the test of time? Whether that be the time it takes to get success, or if you get success early, the time it takes to sustain that and to put up with like the monotonous things or the static times. You know, like you're moving, like it's like this and this and this. You're 20, 21, 22, and then it's like slows down a little bit.
Or then you get to a point where you're out of your city, where you are the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You get a little more international, and you get to that other level where you're surrounded by other people that have come up that same way, and now you're in another league. You've gone from the CFL to the NFL.
And now but then there's another glass ceiling.
Then there's another level above that. And so do you not get discouraged once you get there and
you
continue
realize how
to grow?
Much farther like you thought it was just gonna be like, bang, I'm here. And now it's like, I'm here, but now I'm like 4 lines down from the headliner on the festival. And I gotta work each line up.
Yeah.
I gotta go from like, you know, like this artist to like the Killy level to like the Trippy Red level to like this level.
Yeah.
Like, there's just levels above all those guys.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And like, and that comes back to the hunger. How bad do you want it, and what do you want? Do you just want to be able to say you're a rapper and make enough to make, you know, to wear some cool shit?
Sure. Yeah.
Or do you want to support a family? Or do you want to build an empire? Do you want to build a brand? Do you want to be timeless? Do you want to make music that lasts forever? That's different. I never was trying to be successful like financially or make a Billboard record. I thought that would be like a residual of making the greatest music ever. You know what I mean? Like making a timeless record. And I'm still working towards making the best songs ever. And I feel like I've gotten a lot closer now than I was before. I just got to now release them, put the right content around them, and do it consistently over a nice long period of time, you know? So I feel like shit, it comes down to hunger, and probably number one, now that I think about it, over patience, over everything else, even over talent. It really comes down to hunger.
Hunger and the right intention. Like, why are you doing it in the first place? I think.
But I feel like that could, but the world's too fucked up for that to come into play, in my opinion. Because I feel like you could have shitty intentions and do things like, I could have went against my morals a lot and probably got successful quicker. You know what I'm saying? So maybe the intentions don't play in as much as I wish they did. So, but maybe you're right though. I feel like that's like an opinion that comes down to like how you spiritually feel about like the world. You know, like some deep shit. Because like for me, I'm like, yo, I feel like if I was sinning like harder, it probably would go better for me. Like in terms of like financially and like success wise, that might not last. I might break down. I might pull a Kanye and lose my mind. Like, you know, so like. It doesn't mean that it would work, but I'm saying like if I wanted to like get successful quicker, I know there's certain things I could have done to make that happen. Like whether that be making certain songs about certain things, saying certain things, pulling up on people, making a fucking scene, being viral. You know, like I've always been nice with the hands. When I was young, I used to fight all the time. Like I could have just pulled up on rappers when they came to Vancouver and fought every rapper that came to Vancouver, and I probably would have went viral as fuck.
Well, people do like controversy.
Look at like 6ix9ine. Look at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so like, this is what I'm just saying. Like different. Like that's just like a random example. But like, you know, like you could just pull up on someone, and even if you don't fight them, you just call them out or like battle them, or like, you know, I never got into battling because I was just like, you know, it's kind of corny to me. But I knew that could have given me attention too. Like, you know, there's all these different things that like I just was never willing to do. I was never willing to like sell verses. People be like, I'll give you $500 to rap. I'd be like, nah.
Oh, really? So do you still not do that? Like,
I still don't do it, man.
Do you get many requests for?
I still get requests.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I still do, and I've been like relatively quiet in terms of like just that world and shit like that. Even with releasing music, I was pretty like just doing it kind of to the world, not necessarily to my local like community or whatever, you know. And I didn't want to make a focus on like Vancouver. I just want to put the music out.
Yeah.
And I've had like quite a few people ask me, you know, this, that, and the third, and especially after I did the hook for Junk. I don't know if you heard that "Do or Die" song. It's myself and Junk. It's
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, it's a dope record, and Junk is a dope artist, dope rapper, and I just have respect for him. And we had been talking, and he's like, "Yo," and he came to the studio, and usually that's how it starts for me. It's like I gotta be around someone and like just kick it with him before I'm even thinking that, because like I've always been kind of like weirded out about the collab thing. Like that's just me as an artist.
Someone
like,
you haven't met sends you a song and some money, and they're like, "Yo, throw a 16 on this for me."
Exactly.
Like, that's
or
a little
someone
weird,
or
isn't
someone I have met that I maybe don't believe in their music that hard, or I'm not, or you know what I'm saying? So it's awkward for me because with me, it's the song. Even with producers, they try to send me beats all the time. They send me folders, and I'm like, "Yo, send me 1 or 2 beats at a time in an email." I can't do folders. I don't have the time. I got kids, and it's like a fucking like vortex. Like I don't have time to go in a folder and look at 20 beats.
It's homework.
Because it's like 20. Yeah, it's homework, bro. Like 20 beats. Unless like I've already made music with you and you're an amazing producer and you send me a folder of 20 beats, that's different. I'll download it in my iTunes, put it in a playlist, and when I have time and I need a beat, I'll go through and listen to, oh shit, that one, okay, pop, go on that one. Sometimes I miss on beats because of that, because I just don't jump on them. But I got so many producers around. Like my little brother's a dope producer. I got friends, good friends. Like Brevner's one of my good friends. Stevie Ross, one of my good friends. Like so, there's just producers galore. Mason Rex, like so many producers, right? And that doesn't mean that I wouldn't want a beat from someone else, but I just mean like there's just I've already got so many to work with. I'm like I'm not looking for beats, so that's another one. People always hit me up, and then they feel some type of way, and I'm like, bro, like
it's not personal.
It's not personal. I just tell them, I'm like, yo, just send me 1 or 2 beats, and if it compels me to like jump on it, then I'll let you know. I'm not trying to buy beats. I'll make a song, and if we release it, we'll split it even, just like how it should work. You know what I mean?
So
like,
the collaboration thing for you really has to be about feeling. At the end of the day, it's not just convenience or making a quick couple $100 here. It's really got to come down to like, am I really invested in this?
Yeah, unless it's like a type of money that would change my life. You know what I mean? Like I got like a verse on this new record. I'm like, they asking for a verse. They want to know how much would it. What did I say? Oh yeah, they want a verse. They trying to ask what I'm charging. If you ain't famous, 20 racks, and that's a bargain. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, cause it's just like, oh, like if you're not like my fam or like someone that like I really respect or look up to or like see myself in or something, you know, there has to be some sort of connection in terms of, like musically, like how I see, like how I respect you, and then I'll do it probably for free. You know what I mean? But like, if you're not the fam and you just want, then give me 20 racks, like, because I know you ain't gonna pull the 20 racks out. You know what I mean? Like, if I was Tory Lanez, you'd pull 20 racks out. Like, that's how I feel about myself. Like, I'm not gonna rap on someone's song for like,
just
like,
because.
You know what I mean? Just because, and like, and like with Junk, like I respect him as a rapper. He's got a dope fan base across Canada that he's like really independently grinded himself, and he's just a really dope MC who's really serious about his craft. So when we kicked it, I was like, this dude's dope. I fuck with him, and then he left. And then me and my boy, we made a beat. I did a hook on it, and I was like, yo, this is like, I wanted to give him like a song that necessarily he didn't have. It was like, because I could do like something that he couldn't do with the hook, make it a little more catchy, a little bit more melodic with like what I do with my voice, which would set up the emotion of the song, which would bring a certain type of raps out of him that like I think his fans would fuck with. And then it worked out really well. The song's doing pretty well on Spotify and stuff like that. And that was kind of like almost like a reintroduction for me, just because he's like been working, been doing his thing in Canada, and like really in that like snack lane. And he doesn't really want to be in that lane, but I mean, I think it just like guilty by association. You know what I mean? Not in a bad way, and that's not anything against snack or anything. But I feel like Junk even wants to be like more commercial or more in like an urban lane with the way that he makes his music, especially now compared to what he did before. Yeah. So I think my song was almost like a crossover song for him a little bit into like the sound that he's doing now, which is dope because like, you know what I mean? It was like a respect because he really sharpens his sword with like the raps. Like I don't know if you've seen Junk freestyle or do anything.
He's super dope.
He's crazy.
He's like, never got a chance to meet him, but I've seen him perform and I reviewed a few of the albums he did. And when it was Northwest Division.
Yeah, NWD.
And he was just always like such a standout MC.
Yeah, he's wild, man. So that was really why I did that. Was like, first of all, I don't really want to rap on anyone's song because I'm just getting back into my thing, and like the way I feel about my raps is like that's what I feel like is like. To me personally, I love my raps and I'm real personal about my raps. But I feel like a chorus, because I know like my melodies are strong and they're catchy, I can kind of like shape the song without rapping and just do the chorus.
Sure.
And it's just like a dope way to create the vibe. And then I really like, my boy made the beat and I just like arranged the beat, went on Pro Tools and like really like arranged it, mixed the beat and like set the beat up before we sent it to Jamie Cuse for the mix.
Yeah.
Like I really just kind of like creatively mixed it before the mix.
Right.
And kind of set the song up with the hook and the beat and then gave that the junk and just let him do his thing. And then we sent all the stems to Jamie and he finished it up. So it was like a very dope collaborative effort. It was like 4 or 5 people like kind of like passing this thing around. It was like, it was dope. It was dope.
So are you doing your own engineering and recording, or
I record myself?
You do.
I always record myself. That started before, like prior to Angel of Sin, and then Angel of Sin was when I really kind of like figured that out and kind of like was able to find my sound within just going to the studio by myself, really making it more of like an independent vibe for myself, like just very solitary. Because it was kind of like a time like going from Kai Skywalker to Massiah was like, Kai Skywalker, I was young. I was around people all the time. I lived around people. I had people in my crib. It was more like this kind of vibe. You know, like more people around, more young people around.
Yeah.
Now I have 3 kids. You know what I mean? Like I live in when I started with the Massiah thing, I had 2. I just had my second kid at the time when I was just like, yo, I want to make music again. This is 3.5 years ago. And so when I just started to even think about writing again, it was like 3 years ago, you know? So it took me like even time to just start to like peel those layers back. So I lost my motherfucking train of thought.
Oh, we were talking about recording yourself.
Yeah, so recording.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to record myself, and then it gave me that space because I was like, you know what? Younger me had so many people around. There was always an engineer, like whether it was Khaled who went to Nimbus as well, was my little brother Evan, or it was someone else, or it was Low Keynote. One of my first studios I recorded that was right here on Francis, right by the park here. One of those ghetto apartment buildings.
Yeah.
My guy used to be my guy. We ain't really friends no more. But Nigel Low Keynote, he recorded one of my first albums, Law of Attraction, LOA. And it was we recorded it right at the park there, and it was just like he had like one of those apartment buildings right there.
Okay.
So I used to record right there.
Yeah.
So every studio I went in, I absorbed shit by just watching, paying attention. I started learning Pro Tools just by watching people use Pro Tools.
Right.
And then to the now where I can use all the hotkeys, like millisecond nudges and R and T and
all
like
the
you know
technical
like
shit
all
that you
the
pick up over the years.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not crazy with like I would say like EQs. I'm not crazy with what else? Like de-essers, I'm not the greatest with. So there's certain plugins that I'm just like not the greatest. I'm not so technically sound. I'll just go to presets and then just edit from presets because like my ear is good, but my understanding of it isn't as good as my ear. So I'll just trust my ear. Like I'll get it to a certain point. I'll be like, I'll find the best preset and then just manipulate it from there. So I don't necessarily mix my own shit to finish. I did Angel of Sin just because that was almost out of necessity and like rebellion. It's kind of like
you mixed that the project yourself.
Recorded it, mixed it, and then I just mastered it through Lander. I just said fuck it.
I love Lander.
Yeah. I do love Lander, man.
I'm not ashamed to say.
But so that record was almost like a rebellion. Like it was kind of like, yo, like I used to have people around. Like I just need to like put this on me. Like fuck everyone. Not in like a negative way, but like in like a grown man kind of like, yo, this is on me. I can't blame nobody if this shit don't work kind of thing, you know? And that was like, I need to prove to myself I can do it. Even like the record could have been mixed a little bit better, but that was where I was at the time, and I want to represent that moment. And
I think you should be super proud of it that you did. Like, I didn't realize that you'd done that.
Yeah.
Like, so you've got like quite a big tool belt at this point,
man,
right?
Yeah. And that was like a year and a bit ago when I mixed it. So like I'm way better now. So like my like demos that I make for myself now sound like 3 times as good as that. So it's dope because like now I can really like mix from that. Like Angel of Sin is really where I like started to sharpen that sword.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even like good. Like some of the different tricks that I figured out how to do, I was like, I didn't even know I could do this, you know? But it was a good way to. It was a good way to like dig deep inside myself and be like, okay, this is what you can do. Now let's get a little help.
A lot of that. So like you mentioned over the years, different places you've watched and seen how Pro Tools is used, but how much time do you actually dedicate to like just learning playing around with it on your own? Like
when I started, basically, like because I have kids, the nature of my life, I only have 2, maybe 3 days a week I go to the studio. So when I started a couple years ago, like a year and a half ago, when I started going to the studio consistently.
Yeah.
About a year and a half ago when I was like working on Angel Sand, going to the studio consistently, I was in there by myself and I was on Pro Tools or Photoshop all day.
Okay.
Like 7 hours. Like I'll go there at 4 p.m. and not leave till 10, 12, 2, 3 a.m. And then I'll just walk home half asleep, smoke a joint, go to sleep. Bam. So, and with mine and Evan's studio, like when I'm in there, like no one else is in there. So like I had like as much time as I wanted to. So if I would work on records for a long time, I wouldn't just mix them in like the standard however many hours. I would take like a month or 2 to mix the song, you know, like I would just like keep going back at it like a sculpture, you know.
That's one of the luxuries of mixing your own music is there's no you or the deadline.
Yeah,
no one's knocking at the door calling you being like, I need this.
And I could go in and say, you know what, fuck it, delete that take. I'm redoing the verse.
Yeah.
And I also made the distinction. I'm not doing a bunch of backups. Like Angel Sin doesn't have a bunch of backups, so there's not that unnecessary mud. I just wasn't layering shit. Even the hooks are like 1 layer, maybe 1 layer and an ad lib.
Yeah.
Like I just like stripped it down, and that's what I learned because I was doing the songs, and I was like, nah, this needs to be re-recorded. Yeah. This needs to be redone. I want to do this, and then I kind of would like delete the vocals, do them again. So like it was just like I was just kind of sitting there making them perfect for me, and then through that, kind of like really. You know, I would look at YouTube tutorials or, you know, I'd be like, when Evan was in the studio, I'd be like, yo, Evan, how do I do a reverse reverb? Like, I can't figure it out. Or like, you know, just, he would just be like, bop, 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 you know, or how do I bounce the stems out properly? Or like, you know, certain things that I didn't know before. So I picked up certain like actual like procedures that I didn't even fucking have any clue about. Now I kind of get it. But I still would like, for me, the ideal would be let me record myself. Let me edit my vocals, like take out the breaths, move the vocals around. Like sometimes I need to like, if I do have a backup layer, I gotta like cut each phrase and then lock them in, like a little nudge and shit like that, and just kind of like massage the lyrics. Even if there's like I'm doing a certain flow and then one of the patterns, you know, like one word coupling doesn't sound exactly the same, maybe I'll bump it like 2 milliseconds to the left or 2 milliseconds to the right. Like I'm super like loose with the milliseconds, like with the nudge button, I'd be like nudging shit. And I do that to other people's shit and like make them on time. And they're like, what the fuck? Like I'll just cut the syllables up.
Oh, it's super important.
And it's super important because like that shit matters. You know what I mean? Like that's the way it hits, if it's before the kick drum or if it's after or. And so
it's subtle little shit, man, but it goes a long way from separating like a bedroom recording to like something that sounds professional.
Yeah. So my ideal would be like for me to do most of that original work, be able to like, you know, sequence the beat, arrange it, cut things out, do drops and fades and shit, and then stem all that out and give it to someone like you. Give it to someone like my guy Ray Mosaic, or give it to someone who, or Jamie Cuse or something, like someone who can just finish the job and really clean it up and like do the crazy EQs and the crazy like the other shit, like the mud clearing stuff that I can't even like. I don't even want to attempt to do that. You know, like this one instrument in the beat is clashing with this instrument in the beat, and this EQ needs to be like, you know, needs to pull a bunch of mids out. Exactly.
Multi-band compression.
Exactly.
Mix bus processing. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, and I'll like bust shit, and I have a little bit of that stuff, but like just enough to like make it sound dope. I'm not like really trying to like make it like perfect, like to the trained ear. To the untrained ear, my shit sounds good. To the trained ear, they might pick something up, be like, oh, that's a little bit like unorthodox, or that's a little bit like could be cleaner, or whatever the case may be, right? So
what's your vocal chain like in the studio, like from mic to pre to
we got SM7, and we also have a Lewitt. I don't know what it's called. It's this Lewitt. It's like this crazy tube mic. I got it as a gift, and it is really dope. I can't even honestly.
I've heard of that name. Okay, so that's like your
so that with the Lewitt and the SM7, and then we got like 2 other mics that but usually those are my 2 mics that I like. I like to sing in this one compared to like the other one. I like to rap in a little bit more. It's a tube mic, and then we got the what's it called? The Creamer, Creamer preamp.
Yep.
And what else? I guess that's a preamp.
Into some compression, or is just straight?
Yeah, we have a distressor.
Nice.
A distressor, like the old school.
Yeah.
Like a real one, not like the whatever, you know, the new ones they make that are like the distressor.
All the
like,
digital ones.
Yeah,
like an actual physical distressor.
Yeah, like an actual old school distressor.
That's really nice.
And then we have the UAD, the big one. Not the big one, but like the second biggest one. It's got like 16 inputs.
like an Apollo, like maybe like what I have. Yeah. Yeah.
Similar to that one, but like it's a little bit thicker. Like a light.
Okay.
Oh, maybe the exact same look.
Well, they used to make them in black, and now they're in like silver.
Yeah, it's silver. Yeah, it's pretty much the same as that one. Yeah. So the Apollo.
Yes.
And then a couple other things I don't even know. I'm not that. That's the shit I'm not super inclined in.
I get it.
What's plugging into what? Like I get my vocal chain. Like I know what's in my vocal chain, but I forget like which way it goes. You know what I'm saying?
I'm always really curious about that stuff because this is like for me, like that's the stuff I obsess about, like the engineering and the mixing and things. So
that's the butter right there, man. It makes that honestly has become one of the most important elements. Like back when it was like mostly live music, the engineer didn't really matter that much, and there was only so much you could do on a vinyl record. Whereas the performance really carried it. Yeah. Like of the musicians and of the
when you're
vocalists.
paying for the actual roll of tape.
You know what I'm saying? And it only could sound so good. Like you could only, like it was warm and it was great in terms of like the feel it gave you, but it didn't sound like what it would sound like if you were standing beside the musicians. You know what I mean? Now it's like you can put me in their fucking ear. Yeah. Like whispering in their ear.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's different. Like it's crazy how important production and engineering is, like vocal production and all this stuff. Like
I go back and I listen to like my favorite hip hop albums from the late 90s, early 2000s, and they sound better to me than stuff nowadays, even though nowadays artists are relying more on their engineers. So it's like somewhere down the line, like the culture of engineering got less and less. It got more diluted, and we're not as good as those guys that 20, 30 years ago used to be. But our artists today are still demanding more of us. Yeah. Auto-tune me, put me on beat. Let me do this 16 and 24 takes.
Edit me like you're editing drums for a rock album. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like chop up all my shit. Like it's crazy, bro. And it's what we were talking about with the technology and like good and bad of it. You know, as things forward, you get like a dilution is what happens. Yep. So it's like there's more engineers now. There's more studios. There's more mixing in the box happening. Dudes and not on the SSL.
Out. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like that's the difference is that a lot of those records, still a lot of the major label shit is mixed on SSL, but it's not those old school dudes, unless you're bringing Rick Rubin or Mike Dean in. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? So like those dudes will get it. They'll get you that sound still if
there
if
are
you
still
want it.
Guys out there that are world class, that are doing like the big pop records or like the Manny Marroquins and Jason
Manny,
Joshua's and
I'd be using the Manny's. I'd be using the Manny plugins. Yeah, that's for sure.
Those guys are phenomenal. Like those guys are like world class. But the average level I feel like of engineering is like what is gone down. Like,
and it's also because there's more there's more musicians, so there's shittier musicians. Yes. So like they're having, as you said, they're having to do more work. So these young guys with less experience, with less gravitas, are having to do more work to prop up less talented musicians. So that right there, you know what I'm saying? Like it kind of tells the story for you. Yeah. But then you get guys like Alex Toomey, who are like young and they're doing Young Thug and shit, but they're like revolutionary engineers. Like, dude's crazy. You know what I mean?
Talented.
So like that, that's cool because then that comes out of it. Like he could be the next, like, Mike Dean or Rick Rubin or whatever in 20 years. He'll be old and the young kids will be like, yo, that's Alex Toomey.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, he'll be a legend for sure. It's great to see that, like, when you do get a really talented artist and then they have an engineer come up with them and then they're both like supreme. Yeah. And then you get this. You get that product. You get a Young Thug. You get a Drake and 40. You get a there's a whole bunch of them out there. But so the
marriage of like engineering and music is just crazy.
Because
it's like two sides. Like because like you'd be like, oh, I'm a recording artist, but like you make your like bread on the road essentially. Not really, but like it depends how you look at it. But like the way you can garner the most fans probably is like doing shows or doing videos, which are both like performing art. You're performing the art, you know what I mean? Yeah. Visuals, you know what I mean? And just like doing it like live, like performing it. But then the irony is that there's this other dude who no one sees that like literally makes it sound good for people. So like there's a lot of people, like there's a lot of ignorant people out there. Most people probably don't even factor in the recording engineer part of it, the recording or the mixing engineer, or the fact that there might be two of them or might be six of them.
I know I didn't, even like, and then yet the average person who's just consuming music, like, what is their idea of how a song is made? Like, Celine Dion shows up and does the whole song, and there's just a microphone there, and then you get a record.
Yeah, and there's like a couple producers and like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And
but it's like the complexity and the levels of shit that are happening to give you that finished product that just comes through the speakers and gives you goosebumps is like,
you gotta have like
so
people's lives put towards that.
Oh
It's
my
like a
God.
movie.
Yeah,
you know what I
man.
mean? It's like a movie until you go on set and understand that there's like 12 PAs and like teams of assistant directors.
Yeah,
teams. There's like 7 assistant directors. Like there's like the AD, then there's first AD, second AD, third AD,
Trying
assistant
not to get in front of
AD.
the shot.
Yeah,
Like, just-
right. And it's like, and there's like the cinematographer, and then there's the assistant cinematographer. There's 4 different camera operators, and it's just one, like, you just see one picture. And imagine how many editors and engineers, like even audio engineers are working on a movie. It's like, bro, like Disney, like, you know what I mean? Like I went to the Disney thing at Science World with my kids, and they were showing how like the Disney movies, like the animated ones, get made. It's like a
very
team of
cool.
like 60 people, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like doing like, they were talking about like the computer processing time and the amount of rendering that's done to make like just like Simba moving for 3 seconds. You know, like it's wild.
Oh, the
bro.
new
Like,
Lion King,
stuff,
yeah,
like
the
all the
CGI
new,
one.
like all the new CGI stuff, and how much rendering it takes. Even in like you know, like Toy Story 4 or like, you know, like just like the cartoon style ones, like to make like the expressions, like the facial expressions, like it takes like thousands of hours, and like it's crazy because I got hundreds of people, or not hundreds, but like 60, 70 people on like multiple computers at the same time rendering shit, and it still takes them months.
Unbelievable.
To make these movies. I'm like, oh, this shit, like, and that just goes to show you like great things take time, and people don't respect that, and that's the patience of it. You know what I mean? Like some artists just want it done quickly, so a lot of these engineers are probably getting pressure. They're probably not getting the chance to do the job that it deserves.
A lot of the young guys too that don't really know any different too are very hesitant to pay for a mix, and they want to come in and do the song and finish it and have it on SoundCloud like before they get back to their car at the end of the session. And I'm like,
wow, I haven't experienced that, but I can imagine. Like I can imagine
all the time.
Yeah,
like,
I can imagine
and
that.
it's like, you know, here's what I would like to be able to do this to my best ability, and I need this amount of time and X amount of dollars, and it's just like, it's just,
and trying to convince them it's the best thing for them.
well, that's the hard part,
'Cause it's
without
the best thing
scaring
for
them
the
away,
song.
and it's
Yeah.
and the best thing for the song, and it's like, are you in the theme is that guys just want to pump out 10, 15 songs shittily with the least amount of money, as opposed to like, no, like invest in a single and get it sounding world class. That's gonna do more for you.
Yeah, and then while you're pushing that, try and make 2 or 3 more of the same caliber.
But
you know?
really goes back to the patience thing. Like, just bear with me here. You know, let's just
Yeah.
take this one step at a time and get this to be as good as it can.
And it comes down to, we like doing these full circles with this conversation, because it comes down to, like you said, intentions. Like if your intention is to just get famous quick, or to start a buzz, or to look cool, then you're not respecting the process at all, right? Like you don't have that patience because you don't care for it to be the best. You're not trying to be timeless. You're not trying to be great, and that kind of takes away from the. It sucks because, I mean, at the end of the day, we got to make money too. So if you're going to be an engineer, you got to make money. So it's like you're not going to be able to choose every artist you can work with until you're at an Alex Toomey level.
Yeah.
Where when I hit him up and he says, yeah, I can mix your record for $2,000 a song.
Yeah.
You know, which is like pretty decent. I was actually impressed. I was like,
Is this for real? Like,
I hit him up. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I hit him up with Angel of Sin. I hit him. He was going to mix Angel of Sin.
Only $2,000.
Yeah.
Per
Well,
song.
well, he said 2,500 a record, or like less if you do all 4. He'd be like, I'll do it for like 8 US, mind you.
Yeah, but I mean,
But that's a lot less than some people would probably invest to say that Young Thug's engineer mixed a record. You know what I mean? And like, it was relevant at the time because I had a little bit more money I was planning to spend on the project. I was gonna do like the whole anime and all that. Right off the bat, I was gonna get like an influx of dollars and like put like 50 racks into it and like do the anime, get the crazy mix, do a lyric video for every song, and it just. I was like, you know what? I gotta pull back. You know what I mean? I gotta pull back. Let me just do it like as like let me drop it in the bucket and then like start to cook. You know what I mean? Instead of like throwing everything out there and then like having this pressure and this like inherent like, oh, I have to create like income right away kind of thing. I was like, nah, I don't need that. That's too much, you know? So I fell back off it. But yeah, he was really nice and shit like that. I hit him up like direct.
How did you get in touch with him?
I just hit him up direct. I just paid attention on his Twitter and waited.
On Twitter, then?
Yeah. No, I hit him up on Twitter when he was like talking about mixing people's records. He's like, I have some time to mix records. So I DM'd him. He gave me his email, and I just emailed him the record and was like, explain my shit. And he was like, yo, this sounds dope. I can definitely do it. It'll take me this much time, and this is how much it would be. And I just was like, I sat on it for like a week, and I was really just about to like grab the money from like a good friend of mine and just like pay it, just to like get that process going. But then I was like, you know what, like that's just too much of a ticket. Like if it was like a big artist, maybe like a hook from a crazy artist or something, and like it was 10 racks, then I could justify having to pay off the 10 racks. But the fact that it was just a mix, I was like, it's not essential enough. You know?
Sure. It's not gonna do what. It's not going to carry it that much further for what you're investing in it.
Yeah, especially financially. Financially. It might like in terms of like here or like here, but that doesn't mean it's going to get the music somewhere.
It would make for a really great story, and I'd be super jealous of you.
Yeah.
And all your homies would be like, that would go a long way, but the average person's from the mixes that you did, which are really nice, to the Alex Toomey, like, you know, and people bumping it off of their laptop speakers anyways.
I was just gonna say, people bumping off laptop speakers or a fucking shitty pair of the older iPhone headphones or, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I was actually, a friend of mine, Shams, she's like a crazy like digital artist. She does stuff for like Lil Yachty and all these crazy artists. And then Hines, a friend of mine who does like video stuff. He's like an editor and all that and like a cinematographer. They were talking because she said like, I'm tripping because I never realized all my visuals, like my crazy, because she makes like crazy animations, kind of like Chrome Destroyer and stuff like that. So she's like, I never thought that they look so different on different people's screens and different OSs and different, you know, different like the different like the lights behind certain screens, like Samsung phones, and every screen is like a little bit different
and
LED.
And the RGB, the color profiles
are different. You might even have it set differently. Some people got more red popping out to protect their eyes. So she was like tripping because she's like, I try so hard to make it look this certain exact way, and it's supposed to be perfect, and she gets it on her phone and it looks perfect, and on all her devices it looks perfect. And then she sees one of her friends' phones and she's like, that's what it looks like? What the fuck? And then I said to her, I commented on the tweet and I was like, yo, that's exactly how I feel about like my songs, like mixes, whether it's from me or someone else. Like it's like, oh, like if only you could hear it, like if only you could hear it the way we're hearing it. Like
I know that's the toughest part, right? It's like the visual artist's display is like our set of monitors, our speakers, like what we're checking it out on and how it's going to translate to the average person, to the public.
Yeah, and that's why time. Take that patience. Let Max go and try it on the shitty car and on a good car and in a Bose speaker in the kitchen,
Bluetooth,
in a tinny ass Chrome kitchen, you know, and like on the crappy iPhone headphones, on the AirPods. Like, take the time to check it 6-7 different ways, right?
Oh, believe me, like when I do get the time and the right money for the project, I go all out.
And it makes a huge difference,
and it gives me the confidence too. Not just the artist, just I'm giving the artist the best possible product, but like it's gonna help me sleep. Because I always want to do 110%. I'm so critical of my work, and I just want to put it out and know that it's the best it could have been.
Yeah, because you don't want regrets, man.
No.
And music, especially, music is timeless. Even if you don't want it to be. It might not be like timeless in the way I was saying before in terms of like, you know, a classic record is timeless. But I mean like, it's never going anywhere. Like, once the record is made and it's out there, like it's out there for consumption at all times. And if you can't, not stomach it, but if you can't fully appreciate it the way you wanted to, and you're like, shit, if I did this,
I know
shit would have been fire. Like, you never want to live like that.
I don't want those.
You don't want to live like that, you know. And that's kind of part of like that feeling is part of the reason why I had to change my name and stuff. Is like I became a different person. You know what I mean? I became. I'm not only am I better with my artistry and more honest and more able to tell my story and more skilled, but like as a human being, like I'm not that guy anymore. So it's like, in order to like shake off that feeling and kind of like start anew, it was just like, I gotta switch this up. You know? 'Cause like not only is that music out there, but I don't want to like tie myself so directly to my past when I've made such strides to like run away from that past. You know what I mean? Like I was going through a lot of shit at that time that like I necessarily didn't even rap about. You know, like I didn't rap about a lot of the shit because it was so real at the time. I wasn't gonna glorify it, where other people were glorifying fake shit, and that's kind of what I meant about like being able to become successful faster. Like if I was rapping about some of the shit I was going through at the time I was going through it, it would have been much more polarizing, but it would have been fucking dangerous. Cause I was like doing crazy shit and then going on tour with Brevner and thinking shit, some dude in the crowd is gonna shoot me because of some shit I did.
Oh Jesus!
Like I was thinking like that, like you know what I mean? Because like I didn't know who knew what, and I was doing bad shit. And not only myself, but like the people I was involved with were doing even crazier shit. You know what I mean? So like I had to fall back off that, and so like that stigma and that feeling is what reminds me of like my past. Same as like having a bunch of people around. You know, like I'm just more free and clear. No entourage. You know, I roll up here by myself.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just how I am.
And no features on the album, and just
no
you know,
niggas with me. You know?
Yeah,
and
just you, just the realness.
And I'm a family man, and I got brothers, and I'm always like, you know, I'm a brotherhood type. If I have a friend, like they're my brother. Like I have like lifelong friends that are like my brothers, high school friends, acquaintances. Like that's all like peace, nigga. Like I don't need you around me. Yeah.
I'm similar in that way
like
too. I
keep
keep very few people around me, but the ones that I do are like I would die for.
Die for, right? Because you choose your family, right? So it's like I got 4 brothers myself already, and then like another 3 or 4 friends who are like my brothers. And it's all I need. So I don't need to like call them and get emotional and talk to them all the time. So I got a lot of time to myself now. So things like this or the studio, I turned it into like a solitary kind of vibe. Like most of the time, there's times when I'm like, oh, I want to invite someone to the studio. I'm bored, or I need some inspiration. I need to play some records for someone. See their reaction and get hype. You know, like build that energy up again. Sometimes you got to do that, or it's like, you know, a friend of mine who makes beats or a friend of mine who does this, and I'm like, I just want them to be around. And they can get inspired. I can get inspired. They might play some shit. We might make some shit. So I still do that. I'm not like, oh, I don't collab with anybody. Fuck everyone. But it's more like I don't get a lot of alone time at the crib. I'm with my kids and with my girl and with her mom, and it's like pretty busy at the house. And then when I go to work, I work with youth, at-risk youth. So I'm never alone until so music, and like I've tied that solitary vibe to my music instead of like when I would have gone to the gym or played basketball. Now it's like I just go to the studio by myself.
It's important, man, and for me it's a way. I treat it as a way of like recharging my battery. You know, like my alone time. I lock myself in here and mix for 8 hours. Like I'm just as happy doing that as I am hanging out with my wife or being with friends. It's like it's not a bad thing to be alone. People shouldn't be afraid of it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. I think. My homeboy was talking to me because he's like, he broke up with his girl and he was going through a bunch of changes in life, changed his job. And he's like, man, I feel lonely a lot. I'd be waking up in the morning and I'm all depressed because I'm lonely. And I'm like, bro, go from lonely to being alone. You know what I mean? Like sit in that. Be okay with being alone.
Totally.
Once you absorb that and you appreciate the time you have alone, the quiet it gives you, the productivity you can create.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to create that comic if there was people around all the time. You know what I mean? How the fuck am I gonna write a comic with people around all the time? That's craziness. You know, I'm talking about fucking post-apocalyptic societies. I'm writing about, you know, the scum that's on the side of the, you know, I was in detail, bro. Like the shit he drew was literally my mind. Like I wrote page by page that shit and emailed it to the artist. It wasn't like I just gave him the songs and said, draw a comic. Like, no, I fucking wrote a comic.
Oh, so there were songs and then pages of ideas.
Pages of the comic. Exactly what happened. And then the dialogue is the lyrics. So like, I was like, yo, I want this bubble to say this and this bubble to be like that. Oh, his thing's too dark here. Oh, this is different. And his gun needs to be thicker. His car, like every fucking detail. We went back and forth. He gave me the sketches, and I would talk, and then he would give me, and then he would do flat colors, and then we would talk. And then he would do details, and we would talk, and then he would finish up, like do lighting and stuff. Because it's all like in Photoshop. So he would draw, and then he could kind of like give me it like as he structured it up.
Okay.
So similar to going back and forth with like an engineer, and like he's okay, this is 2.0. And I'm like, okay, you need to do this. Then. So like I was like, I was even as deep as like, okay, like 91, like I want the palettes, like the color to be like this. Like this is sunset, and then this is sunrise, and then this is that. You know, like so it's everything about the colors of it and all that was all like shit I put in the notes.
Wow,
you know? Like all of that.
Intricate.
His whole outfit, everything, like every detail of his outfit, I wrote it. Like there was a character. That's what I meant by the Google Drive. Like there was a character description in there.
Okay.
There was his backstory. Like his origin story was in there. So the artist got to read all that. He had to read all that. I gave him like work. Like he had to put in work for that shit, for real.
Wow, your mind is just constantly working, hey?
Yeah, man. I just was like at all times, bro.
When you're doing your day job, do you have like a in the back of your mind with like this creative thing that doesn't turn off, where you're just kind of processing things a little bit? Like
I'm always applying it.
Yeah.
To whatever I'm doing.
Okay.
So I'm left-handed, you know what I mean? So my right brain is always applying itself to everything I do. So when I work with the kids, I'm either applying music to it by like, listening to music, showing them music they didn't know, whatever, or I'm absorbing things that could go into my music, whether that be like advice I gave people or advice I needed or things I learned by teaching people. And then the other side of it is like just using my creative brain to like create strategies. So like I'm real creative with the way that I help these kids. So where the social workers would be like, oh, you got to bring them to counseling. I'm like, yo, we're going to shoot the basketball. And he's going to shoot the basketball an hour every day to the point where he can almost beat me in the shooting competitions. Now he has a little bit of confidence and he has a little bit of like understanding of like how to get better at something by putting reps in. So like you just like little things like that or like, testing the kids, being like, okay, I'm going to give them a little bit more of responsibility every time and then see how they deal with it. And like, so like using that creativity in everything that I do kind of like just sharpens that tool at all times. Like I'm always using my creative brain, like, cause when I'm at work and the kids are sleeping or they're, doing something else or they're at school or they're at work, then we have time to like, creatively talk about what we want to do, whether that's music stuff or that's how I'm going to live in the Caribbean or like, you know what I mean? Like how we can create money out of nowhere or how we can help more kids. Like we're always just like me and my boys, we're always on some creative shit. So yeah, bro, like that's just like that's me. I've always been creative. I'm creative. I teach my kids, like I homeschool my oldest daughter. Okay. So we creative with the way we homeschool her instead of like making it like so structured. It's like based on how she feels. The subjects aren't necessarily like stringent to like one thing. Like some days she'll just like learn about one thing. Like she'll be like, oh, I want to learn about like taking better care of the planet. So the whole day will be just about like, like being better for the planet. So that could be recycling or that could be learning about the ecosystem, learning about, saving money, learning about whatever the case may be. Right. So being creative is like, I feel like that shit keeps me alive. You know what I mean? Like for me personally, because it's like resourcefulness. It's like the same thing that keeps immigrants alive. It's just being creative, being resourceful. Like, how do we make something out of like basically nothing, right? Totally. And that's what I came from. I'm not an immigrant, but like I feel like I live not a similar lifestyle, but like this type of lifestyle where I had to have creativity or I wouldn't have survived. If I didn't, you know what I mean? Like if I didn't know how to like make this, then I would have been screwed. You know what I mean?
It's good for you and it keeps you out of trouble. Being creative and having an outlet will keep people away from gangs and drugs and violence and all the evils, or anxiety. For me, like if I'm not working on several mixes and doing a couple other things, I'm like sad. Like my brain goes to places it shouldn't, and I'm like it's fucked. So I need to be consumed by.
It's a powerful instrument. But if it's not being used, it can be detrimental. Yeah. Right? Like, man, that anxiety thing is real. Like I have mad anxiety, and like if I don't do a bunch of like if I do too much, that'll hurt me. But if I don't do enough, it goes into like it just goes into like a negative version of like stress, where it's like I feel like. Everything's catching up on me, and like I'm not doing anything to forward myself, and like it just comes to this like stagnant, like suffocating feel. That's what happens if I'm not being productive, and it comes, and even just like not enjoying what I'm doing. If I was doing something like monotonous, like if I wasn't working with kids, like I don't know honestly what I would do, because all I want to do is make music or like help people, right? So I ain't trying to do some job where I'm basically like essentially stacking money for somebody else. That's
right. Right.
It's really what you do, unless you're, I have more of an entrepreneurial spirit, and that's where the creativity comes in. Like, if I wasn't working with the kids, that time would be put towards doing something on my own. Like, I'm trying to open a spa for my girl and trying to do some other things. Like, we're trying to open a spa together, trying to create other companies, trying to do clothes, trying to do other things. So the creativity part of it is what I think fuels all of that. Because if there's no passion in something, it wouldn't make you tick like that. Like, if there wasn't passion behind your love of music, then you wouldn't feel purpose in doing those mixes, even if they were onerous, or even if they were pointless, or even if the artist was whack, or even if you didn't get paid as much for one or the other. You have a passion for music that you understand the process, and you're like, yo, this, I wouldn't have this without this. So I wouldn't have this place to make whatever I want or to do whatever I want to make what, to create impact in my way if I didn't do all this other shit, right?
Yeah.
But you've chose the shit that you're gonna eat instead of eating somebody else's shit. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, okay, if I gotta do something I don't necessarily love, I'll do something in the category that I love. And even if I gotta do a little bit of shit that is uncomfortable, I've chosen it. So it's like there's a power, there's like a ownership over it. You know what I mean? Like, doing your own thing is huge in life, man. I feel like our generation, like, that's how we change the world, just by becoming all entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
and basically being like very less reliant on corporations.
It's amazing, some of the people that I'm meeting that are so young now, that are just have their shit together, and that are such entrepreneurs and creatives and visionaries, and like thinking about when I was their age, like I was an ape, dude. I was like an idiot, like a complete useless. And these 19, 20-year-olds are like coming in here with their briefcases and their meetings and their, it's just like, holy shit, you guys! This generation right now is
driven,
and
they have the tools at their fingertips, right?
The no lack of resources. Because
if you don't have the resources or the tools, you don't realize the possibilities of what you can do. You know what I mean? Like I was always a dreamer type, so I always like overestimated what I could complete. Like, and it was part of that resourcefulness, part of that creativity, being like, oh yeah, only got this and this, but like if I put this and this together, like I can beat those guys. You know what I mean? Like, even that's like with sports or with a fight, or I always felt like that. Like, oh yeah, I'm shorter than him and this and that, but I'm gonna get him. You know what I mean? Like, or oh yeah, I don't like, my friends suck, and like this sucks and this rim's bent, but like I could beat these guys. Like that was just always my mentality. It was just like, yo, like shit, like I'm gonna get it. You know what I mean? Like,
was any of that from like how you were raised, or you just think that's part of your inherent like personality?
I think it's half and half, because I was raised like with my dad and my brothers, no mom, no female influences, no like soft shit, no kissy and makeup. Like, we fought for everything we had, and we fought with each other, and we made up and told each other we loved each other. We loved hard, we fought hard. So I had like a very competitive nature.
Right.
So like ego gets bred from that, because like you have to have an ego to survive in a competitive like a competitive community in any way. So like within my home, like with my dad, it was always like we always talk shit to each other, always make jokes and bug each other. It was always very like aggressive, but not like in a negative way, but just very aggressive and very intense. So I feel like that part of it is part of it. Part of it is just my nature, like deeper, like my physiology, like shit from my ancestors, and through like my background, and through everything that happened before my dad came to be. I feel like a lot of that has to do with like who I am and how intense I am and how strong I am. But so it's like nature and nurture. It's not like it's no verses there. It was like a double. It's almost like double. You know what I mean? Like I had like a unique childhood, because I was able to experience certain things. My dad had money at certain times, and we were able to do cool shit.
Yep.
But then other times we were dealing with a lot of shit that other kids weren't dealing with. So like I got to see almost like two sides of the coin. I got to feel like both worlds in a way. So I dealt with a bunch of like shit emotionally and like physically that like a lot of people hadn't been through. But then also I got to like travel. I got to do cool shit. My dad took us to like NBA games, and I got to go to a bunch of theme parks. Like I didn't feel like I like missed out on my childhood. So like I got like, it was like I was insulated by certain things. Like I didn't get like like I didn't go through some horrible things that some of my friends have been through. Like and I was never like abused sexually, or like what I mean. Like I never dealt with that kind of stuff, or was like never like neglected or whatever. You know what I mean? But some of the stuff I dealt with was crazy, and I got in a lot of like trouble. As soon as I was like, my dad was a single dad, and he went through a lot of stuff when he was younger. So he was just trying to put food on the table and like do what was like the actual necessities. Like he wasn't thinking about like watching us all the time, or like making sure we were here or making sure we were there. He was just like, yo, go do your thing. And so I found a lot of trouble myself, and got into a lot of bad shit. But I always had like an angel on my shoulder, man. Like the bullets always like didn't happen when I was there. Like literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Like some of my friends were literally shot in times where I was supposed to be with them. And I wasn't because, like, my girlfriend was like, oh, let's stop here and eat. Like, I just want to eat with you. Like, I know they're at the party, but we'll meet them at the after party.
Right.
And then we go to the lounge for the after party and no one comes. And then I get a call like, yo, everybody got shot.
Jesus Christ.
And, like, dudes getting their stomachs blown out by a 45 cal. And I would have been standing right beside them because they were like, we were like that at the time. So shit like that happened. Or I'd be somewhere and then I'd leave and then the place would get kicked in and everyone would get arrested. You know what I'm saying? Like, constantly. Or, like, this friend would get an addiction, and that friend would get an addiction, and this friend would go into psychosis and be in a mental hospital for months. And none of that shit ever happened to me. It's, like, the creativity part of it, and then just, like, something about, I don't know if it's God or, like, an angel on my shoulder or luck.
Yeah.
Like, it just always, I always dodged it.
But
somehow.
you've always felt that was there, hey? Like,
Yeah,
kind of
man.
a presence or something.
Yeah, even like when I got into like crazy physical situations, like crazy fights or like crazy like robbery shit or like just whether that was people doing it to us or us doing it to people, I always like felt like I was like in this like weird, like it's like bullet time. Like I never felt like I could truly get hurt. Like it's weird, man. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like even when I got this shit, like I don't know if you can see this like huge knot on my head, but like I got hit in the head with a pipe when I was like 15 by some like dude who was like 20 at the time.
Shit.
21 or something. And I was like 15, 16. And he was trying to like beat up my friend and I was trying to defend my friend. I'm not even going to tell the story, but because it's a long ass story and a really intense one. But the point is that shit happened and I never realized like how much that shaped me as a person because it was really intense and like not only my head's a different shit, you know what I mean? Like it, and I never even thought about it growing up. And then now being bald, I was like looking at it like a couple months ago and I was like, man, like that shit really like changed me. Like it made me more defensive. It made me tougher. Like it made me stronger in a way. Like became way more fearless of things. And I realized my limitations, like how tough I was, like physically and like mentally, because of what had happened and how I like rose up from this shit. But it really shaped my personality and made me a little bit more like not violent per se, but like a lot more desensitized to violence. Because once someone hits you in the head with a pipe like that and like literally like stands over you like, ha, like I just killed you, and then you stand up and whatever happens after, you realize like how far people are willing to go. And if someone pushed me there and I saw what I was able to do and willing to do at that point. And so like my desensitization to violence, you know, my defensiveness towards people, like my trust in people is way lower now. Like I'll be walking across the street and someone goes to like take that turn, like I'm literally like I'll stop and just stare and be like, if you fucking drive towards me, like I'm gonna snap. And it's like part of me that I can't change. You know what I'm saying? Like if people put me or my kids or like people that I love in danger, like there's a switch that if that shit gets flipped, like I don't want it to get flipped, you know. And I've always had like anger issues when I was younger and shit, and I was willing to get in fights when I was younger. So it's almost like the top got popped off a lot more. So it was like less, but it's like now I don't do that shit, and I work on like ways to outlet it, and like music helps and all these things.
Exactly, yeah.
But at the same time, I'm much more righteous in it because I don't get into fights. I don't start shit. I don't start problems. So if I was to lose it on someone, I feel bad for that person. Because not only am I like twice as strong as I was when I was getting into shit, but I also know I didn't start it. I also know I'm right. You know what I mean? Like if I'm fighting for something, it's either my life, my daughters, my wife. You know what I mean? It's some simple shit. It's like, yo, like I'm going to fuck you up right now. So like I feel bad for whoever, like if that ever does happen. And there's been a couple times, man, like the other day I was crossing the street at Victoria and Kingsway, and this dude almost ran me over. Like literally, it was like the crosswalk goes green and the white little light comes up with the white walking dude, and I go to walk and he tries to like sneak a right turn and he almost takes me out. So I step back and fucking booed his van like hard because he almost like took me out. It was enough for me to like jump back and then kick, and I only hit the back of his van because he like zoomed by me. This dude pulls up and stops. I got a bunch of coffees and like some muffins for my girl. Yeah. And then dude gets out the car, and as soon as I see him get out the car, I'm like, fuck. So I put my shit on the ground because I'm like, what's going on?
Where's this going to go?
And what I should have done was thrown his hot coffee at his face, but that's for another day. But he comes up, bro, dude had a hammer in his hand.
Oh,
he was like a 35-year-old like, angry, big Asian dude with a hammer. And he comes towards me, and I kind of like circle him, and I'm like, what's up, man? Like, what are you going to do? Like, I look at him, and he's like, fuck you, you dent my car. I'm like, no, you almost killed me because you weren't paying attention. I had the right of way. You took an illegal right turn. You almost killed me, bro. I'm like, fuck you. I'm saying it all very loud and very clear so everybody can hear, like, this dude's a psycho. And he's not. And so I'm like, oh, so you're going to smash my head with the hammer? Like, what's up, bro? And he literally was like, he could look at me and tell that it wasn't going to be as simple as like, oh, I'm just going to hit this dude in the head. I'm like, and then I look at him, I'm like, yo, you got one swing with that thing. So like, if you come near me and you swing that thing, you better be serious. You better be sure. Because if you miss, like, best believe that thing's coming out your hands, or I'm gonna tackle you on the ground. And that hammer, once me and you were this close, that hammer don't do much. You know
but
what I mean?
he got an idea of what he was in for pretty quickly.
Yeah, man. And then his two friends came out the van, these other Asian guys, and they come to me, like, oh, sorry. And I was like, honestly, like, I get that you're saying sorry for your friend, and he was still standing there like he wanted to do something. And I look at them, I'm like, I'm gonna hit you guys. And they're like, what? I'm like, if you keep coming near me, like, I'm worried about your boy here, and you're coming putting your hands on my shoulder saying sorry, like back up. Like, you're not my friend, you're his friend. Like, y'all putting yourselves in danger right now. And then, like, basically some other dude came, like some like homeless guy was like, yo, what's going on? And like told them to leave. And like he was like, man, I saw that was ridiculous. He's like, yo, like, these people drive crazy. And then I went home, but it reminded me, like, yo, shit can pop off at any time, man. If that was the States, I would have got shot in the face, guaranteed.
Oh man, who knows?
In the States, I don't do none of that. Like, no ego, no, like, even the defensiveness, I drop it.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's more of an understanding that it's real.
It's
like
different.
in Canada, I do it because I'm like, yo, first of all, y'all motherfuckers need to learn. You're gonna kill an old lady or a kid one day.
Yeah.
By doing that shit. And me, if it takes me to scare your ass, that dude probably ain't gonna take a right turn at that thing again. You know, he probably remembers. Even if he acted tough with the hammer, he only pulled the hammer out because he saw me. If I was some skinny dude with some looking like a little college kid, he wouldn't have grabbed a hammer. He would have came out and punched me. Yeah. He didn't want no smoke. He looked at me and was probably like, yo, this dude I need a hammer. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm the type of person that I'm a protector type person in society, so I kick every car, bro. I do. That's the type of person I am. You know, I'm the type of person, if I'm on a SkyTrain and someone bumps someone or is rude to someone, I'll say something. Because I've always felt that role in life, to be like a protector or to be like, stand up for people.
Yeah, and probably comes from, you know, with your brothers having to fight for your space and your territory.
And protect them in the outer world. So it's like that double entendre. It's like a relation thing. It's like anyone could be your enemy or your friend. And it's like, yo, weakness is not to be preyed upon, because it doesn't mean like, or even kindness, but even just like perceived weakness. Like, you know, people just see people and assume that they're weak, and they love to like prey on weak people, but they don't ever want to prey on someone who's willing to stand up for themselves. You know what I mean? And that shit bothers me, like abusers and like dangerous drivers and shit like that. You know, like these people, a lot of them don't even look like tough people, and I be smacking their car, and then they're like, oh, they see me and they're like so scared. You know what I mean? Like, or I'm standing there like, yo, what are you like? You know what I mean? There's an old lady right here, or I'm with a stroller, or my baby's strapped to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, half the time this shit happens, I'm with my kids.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like that with the hammer, it wasn't when I was with my kids. But I'm saying, like, a lot of times I'm almost getting ran over like daily, bro. Like, it's crazy. Just walking around Vancouver and people just don't respect life anymore. They're looking this way so they can make the right turn.
I know,
that they don't get hit, but they don't care what's in front of them. Like, you're in a fucking metal thing with wheels, bro. I'm walking. Like, why are you acting crazy? Like,
it can be tough around here.
It's wild, man.
Well, look, my dude, I'm sure we could keep going for another 4 hours at this rate, but maybe we should wrap this up.
I don't even know what time
I think
it
we're
is.
going on almost 2 hours here.
Ooh, hell yeah, man.
This has just flown by, though.
It's been a blessing, man.
This has been really fun. Thank you so much.
It's like the best way to meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to like truly like meet and like connect and shit like that. It's good, man. I've been
After all this time.
I've been meaning to come check out 2-Track like in general, so it was a good way to do it, man.
Yeah, well, if they're done downstairs, I'll give you a tour. I'm going to show you around.
Bless.
But where can people check you out online if they want to see what you've been up to?
Man, Massiah is the name. You can check it out on Spotify, Massiah. All my records are on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all that stuff.
Yep.
And then in terms of social media, it's at Massiah Profit. That's Massiah, Massiah, Profit like money, Profit. It's on all social medias, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. What's it called? TikTok. You know,
still have to get into that one.
I be trying. I'm not really good with social media. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. I try so hard to use social media, but then I'll go like 2 weeks without posting something just because like it's just hard for me. I don't know.
Tough.
it's not really my person. I'm social when I sit down with someone, or when I'm in a room. I can create that energy.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to create it all the time on social media. But I got to get better with it. I got to get better.
2020 goals.
Yeah, 2020 goals, man. just to do this more. Yo, what's up, y'all? But just that.
Picking up the phone more. I'm gonna text less, and I want to pick up the phone
Yo,
more. You know,
I had a conversation with someone the other day, and then I was like, yo, like hearing voices and like it's so much different, bro. It's like it's almost throwback now having a phone conversation. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah. Well, things get accomplished more quickly than misunderstood texts. If you just call somebody up and be like, yo, this is what I want, or this is where I'm going to meet you.
Yeah,
that's a phone call. And
there's actual tone in it, and there's
yes.
and it's productive.
You don't have to throw in the emojis because they can hear what you're saying by your cadence.
Yo, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, my man. This has been really cool. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have, and we will see you next week. Take care. Peace.